call to order the Tuesday, February 7th, 2023 City of Rollingwood Utility Commission meeting. And we will start with roll call, and I'll start on my left.
Chris Kirksey.
Clark Wilson.
Jonathan Miller.
Walt Rollison.
Elizabeth Bray.
Perfect. Public comments. Did we have any public comments? No public comments. So we can move on to the first consent agenda item, which is the discussion and possible action regarding the minutes from the November 1st, 2022 Utility Commission meetings. Those minutes were included in the packet. Does anyone have a motion to?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We have approved the minutes for November 1st. Moving on to the regular agenda, I'd like to move the utility bill appeal up to the top, so we can just address that now while you're here instead of having you wait for any other items. So we will move to discussion and possible action on the utility bill appeal for 2602 Pickwick. So if you would like to have you're welcome to go up to the podium and make comments. I know there's some materials that were provided in the agenda packet as well.
Thank you all very much for being here tonight. My name's Will Petty. I reside at 2602 Pickwick Lane. Been a Rollingwood resident off and on since 1970. My dad was a police commissioner. So I thank you and respect y'all's time for volunteering. So thank you. Here to discuss our water bill at 2602 Pickwick Lane. And we had an issue that was kept going on and really undiscovered for a period of time because there was nothing visible to show that there was a leak. And so we go back to the timeline about 20 months ago to the 2021 winter. We had our pool resurfaced and went on about our business. And then we had the cold spell snowvid incident, which took out lots of landscaping and went into spring. And I believe there's a rate hike that came along in there, and so noticed an uptick in the bill. Summer came, new plants from snowvid, and so putting the water on it, and so noticed higher bills and kept going along. And so came back to winter, went down a little bit, and then kicked back up into this past summer in the heat. And so finally it was like, there has to be something wrong. The bills just can't go on this high. Contacted the city. They came out, could not see anything, notice anything. And so then we moved on to hiring American Leak Detection, who came out and really focused in on the pool. And so they came out and gave us a diagnosis that we had a skimmer leak and advised us to replace those skimmers, which the pool builder came and replaced those skimmers. And there's an auto pool filler that goes on, and so unless that auto pool filler's off, you don't notice a fluctuation. So, but we had the auto filler broke and it was off, and noticed it sunk back down to where it was after we fixed it. So we had to call American Leak Detection back out, and they found another leak, which was seeping into the ground that I think I sent in the measurements. It was a lot of inches per day. And so anyway, finally diagnosed that leak this past December, and was able to cure it with a return valve by closing the return valve and shutting it off. And so that's kind of the process that we went through. I would say I probably should have questioned it earlier, but through the summers we've had and the vegetation we planted and in the rate hikes, I thought maybe this is where we were these days, but it wasn't adding up, and so we proved it out. And so I'm here to ask for an adjustment on my bill for as much as you can allow for. I think it was innocent mistake. If I noticed it sooner, it would have dug down and had it fixed sooner. And so it was kind of one of those things that kept perpetuating, and head scratcher and seasonality. And so I'm here to ask for any sort of adjustments you can do for as much of the bill, because I know it's added up, and so that's where we're at.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you.
So just the, and,
Yeah, I'll open it up. Go ahead, Clark.
yeah, so at what point do you think the leak, you say you had the pool resurfaced?
Yes, and so the theory, we believe, is when the pool got resurfaced, the two skimmers somehow got a piece of the plaster hit it or broke it, chipped it, to start a leak there. But the real problem was the second leak that we found.
And you
And
don't
so-
know exactly when that one started?
No,
So-
I can't.
So the pool was resurfaced, you say in May of 21?
No, sir. It would have been the December of 20
December
into
20.
21 is when that occurred. And so we don't know how much was leaking out of that. We basically had 3 leaks going on from what they're telling me.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, refresh my memory, because I did read it and I did follow you, but, the difference in the timeline when you fixed the skimmers and when you discovered the next leak, or?
That the skimmers, there was a repair, a quick repair done before we could drain the pool in, I believe it was October. They replaced them in November. And then we noticed, no, that we're still have an issue.
And was the issue of the same magnitude, or was it partially, mediated by fixing the skimmers?
Well, we're not 100% sure, because we were told the skimmers were the initial issue, which those got repaired, a temporary and then a full repair. And then we were still dealing with the same issue. So in that magnitude of the second leak, what they were determining, I believe it was 2 inches a day. I have it and so I don't know how we quantify the
I'm trying
two.
to answer your question as to when, diagnostic, if there was a way to tell, if ultimately it really was the skimmers for y'all, or if this had been going on for even possibly longer.
Yeah, it could have been going
It's
on
really the leak,
longer. It seems like it's the second leak was
the big one.
the big one.
And you've already had adjustments to the, to 2 different month bills recently, is that right?
No, sir. No adjustments.
No
have been done.
adjustments yet? Oh, okay, there was a calculation done?
We offered, yeah, we were able to offer the 3 months adjustment.
Okay,
Those would have been
Put it in the packet.
for December, so what 3 months
is it,
were contemplated
was
as
it,
the
August, September, and October.
yeah,
August, September, and sorry, I know that's,
Sure.
oh, I see, okay. And so what was the timing, sorry, what was the timing of the communication to the city that there was an issue as far as the water bill appeal timing?
That was this summer. I couldn't tell you if it was July or August that I requested for that or was an issue, and if they could come out and take a look. That was the first thing offered, that the city could come out and take a look. And there was nothing
That was, okay, so
Nothing
July
discovered at that
22.
time.
And so the request is to make adjustments from May to July, if the staff has already offered August through.
My request is, since I had an unknown leak since basically, I'm gonna call it, fast forward February 2021, looking for as much, I don't know where it falls, but we obviously had a undetected issue, unvisible, and so, really looking for as much adjustment, because I know we're leaking, but where to draw the line. I know it's a long timeline, but it took some.
And what's the status of the account today? What,
He does have a balance of $7,105. $7,105.10. and that's mainly all the past year.
That's past due starting, well,
Well-
I'm sorry, that includes how many months, I guess, maybe that's.
Probably
oh,
3 or 4, 4 or 5.
The 7,000 is for what period of time?
It's, I did 2018 till today,
Okay,
and so he wasn't paying his full balance.
okay,
So whatever his balance was, he would only pay like half or less than half. So it started accumulating.
okay, so it's hard to tell, it's
Right.
hard to tell, okay, that's fair.
The account was last zeroed out, in July of 22, it looks like.
Okay,
In history, y'all can only go back 24 months, is that correct?
We can see through our current billing system to May of 21, and then we have AWR history files, so they're a little less, consistent at that point.
Normal billing for our residents is $300 to $500 a month. Well, this was not going on.
okay. And we were looking this up before, and I think we had addressed this in prior meetings, it may be before you, Walt, but we had and maybe Chris as well, but I can't recall the timing of that. We had looked back at the appeals process to we were trying to put some bookends just around timing. And so what I recall, which is what I was looking up, was that we said that within a 6-month period of knowing or having something, we would have to see the appeal. We kind of limited the time frame to at least 6 months of coverage. And then as far as the action that can be taken, I know that the city, the administration can, without coming to utility, can provide the adjustment that was already mentioned. Above and beyond that, I still think we're limited within 6 months of this appeals process, but I'm wanting to actually open that up again to you, Clark, only because.
Well, I can't recall, actually.
Yeah, and I was wishing Chris was here too, because I know that he would have his thoughts on this. But I think the intent of the 6-month window we had for bringing appeals was to somewhat put bookends around how far back we would
Yeah.
look to make an adjustment.
Mhm.
And so while 3 months is what can be done without coming here, my guess is that it's 6 months, that our intent was to say, we can look back 6 months and make that wholesale adjustment, for that time period. Does that sound consistent? Well,
I think that's
We're
correct.
all new.
Yeah, so you had the first leak repaired, and when was that? That was October?
October, November, and
And then again in January? Were they-
December.
Yeah. So,
Is the 7,000 pretty much what was billed for those 3 months? October, November, and December?
it seems like it's hard to say because there's balances that have carried as payments have come in over a period going back prior to those months as well. At least that's what, right, so well, I guess we can know exactly what was billed for those 3 months. That's in the packet, right?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna.
Yeah, those 3 months, he was billed, 1 month, it was $1,777. The next month, 1,300, these are round numbers, and the next month, 1,721, so,
That's August, September, October.
right, that's about 4,700.
And then if we went back another 3 months,
yeah.
that would be July, June, and May.
Those were
I know who counts
similar.
that
And
way.
May.
May, June, and July.
Almost a 1,700, an 1,800, and then an $800 bill.
So you can see I've been paying significant amount for water for a long time, so please take that into consideration.
It seems to have really spiked in June by this graph that I'm looking at.
It's summertime, evaporation,
Yeah,
landscaping, new trees.
exactly, so, because it seemed to go sort of
right down in December of
It's kind of followed this history for
22.
pretty close to it for almost 20 months.
Yeah, so if you look at May of '21, I guess we should look at May of '22, and that's what I don't see here.
May of 22, I show a usage of 41,000.
Oh, I see it here, yeah.
So if we went back 6 months, from, if we gave the adjustment from May to October, that would take the big consumption months, so. Your typical May usage was 23.
And just to redefine what's possible here.
Yeah.
It's 6 months. That 6 month is that's additive to the city's like a pre-approval administrative process for 3 months, or is it 6 months inclusive of that 3 months?
So the intent was to say, so, right, the intent is to say within 6 months of your leak, you'll be bringing it to us. In
Yes,
which
yeah.
case we would only ever be addressing
only
a
about 6
maximum
months.
period of
Got it.
6 months.
Yes.
The 3 months is what can be done without it even,
Yes.
right, that can be offered without coming to us.
Got it.
But the 6 month bookmark was this, because again, we were trying to say, I think we were trying to limit ourselves to a situation similar to this, where it's gone back so far, it's very difficult for us to determine what is the root cause from a period so far in the past. So we said, well, let's just bookmark this. We think 6 months between billing and seeing, that was providing a sufficient time frame. So does that answer your question as far as?
Yeah. So we only go back 6 months conceptually. Is the motion that we need to put together the approval of the 6 months, or is the approval of the stub 3 months?
It can be, I mean, either,
Okay.
we can
I
say
didn't know if the 3 months
6.
was already executed.
No, that hasn't been.
Okay, that's not, okay.
Is there a way to look at May 21 through, and lay over 21 to, or I guess 21 's still gonna have it? Yeah, never mind.
Well, again, I think the way that the appeals language reads is that within 6 months you can come in and appeal a bill within 6 months of the issue, whatever the event, whether that's a high bill, whether that's a found leak, and that provides the time for the repairs to be found, completed, and then at least confirmed, maybe even with further bills, that the leak is stopped. And during that process, which could be up to 6 months, right, there's no bills need to be paid. And we understand that as we're kind of figuring it out, and then we go back and say, well, now we have all the information, let's look at how we can potentially adjust this, right? So I don't know if we have the flexibility within the process that we kind of, like our, what do you want to call it, the policy, to go outside of those bookmarks. And within those 6 months, we can, again, it's just the wholesale cost plus the 10% is the cure that we're permitted to do.
And that would
That's how
be
it's been.
the wholesale cost beyond your average, which
Yeah.
has been computed now for, I guess, 2018, 19, and 20 was the way they pulled the data back that far.
So if we do a 6 month, if we include those other prior 3 months, the 3 months we already did, what is that? Can we do a quick, what does that look like
Well,
as
that,
far as change? Do we have that? Okay.
$63.96.
So it'd be about double of what we can offer for our leak adjustment policy.
Okay.
One question. Did you have a different leak issue in 2018? 3-year average. And the 2018 average seems quite high.
I haven't had, there wasn't a leak repaired. Maybe it was I can't remember what the summer was like back then, or the irrigation was set too high, or I don't know. If y'all have access to the averages, can you go back and look what the averages are and then inlay it over that time period and see what it would be?
Well, that
Cause
doesn't,
I've been
That's what
paying in.
that doesn't help you because your average from 18 is pretty close to your average for June through October of this year.
And that's how those numbers were calculated. They were based on a 3-year average for those specific months.
Right.
So those numbers, we calculated those ahead of time, so that would be based on your averages. It looks like maybe that one in August might have not helped too much. We did have a $72,000 or 72,000 gallon usage in August of 18. So that probably didn't help the averaging in that month. So basically, if you have
Yeah, I
a
don't know
month
what
that
happened
has, if you have a high average, it won't help you much in the averaging process.
I was just trying,
Yeah, I can't remember
One-
what
I know, but I
that
was,
summer was or what
back
happened.
to the where did it start or anything else, that could have been a different issue, or it might help
Yeah.
you
Who knows how long that leak's been there, but
solve that problem, cause
The head-
it looks like you
yeah.
had a leak
Yeah.
in
yeah.
some kind of leak, cause that's, even without a leak, that's an extraordinary amount of water to use. So if that's helpful.
My wife loves to do laundry.
You would have to do,
I'm kidding.
Well, is anyone, is there any support, or thoughts on the 6 month?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable, and the question is what, that would be the months of,
May,
May,
June,
June, July, August and September and October.
Well, is it May? So this was brought to the city in January?
No, it was brought in,
Summer.
October, right?
In the summer of 2022.
This leak adjustment form was submitted, in October at the earliest, because there was a request for relief through October of 2022, so this wasn't, submitted to us. I don't actually know the date in which this was submitted, unless.
But we're saying May through October of 22.
Of
Yeah.
22.
is
Right.
your question, well, whether,
What is the 6-month window?
because of the scope of,
Well, it was
whatever the
brought to us
verb-
in October of
right,
this
but
year.
whatever the verbiage is, where does that 6 months start? Is it from the date of the report? Is it 6 months bookending the issue? Like what is the wording of our,
It's bring the leak to you in
Yeah.
6 months to deal with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It should be filed no later than 6 months, but it would depend on what the issue is. It could have been done by the time they brought it to us, so it could say, hey, we brought it to you within 3 months, we fixed it in 30 days, it's just this 1 month of May. But we're saying here, what is being presented to us is that there's 20 months worth of impact, and we're saying, okay, well at most we can look at 6 months,
no,
because,
you answered my question, 'cause I
Okay.
wasn't clear since I wasn't here when that
Oh.
ordinance was written.
okay,
I didn't know whether that 6-month window started at the report date, or whether it was an umbrella of a 6-month period
Yeah.
around the report date,
Right.
which could be encompassing months before and after the report date.
right, no, I mean, I guess it could, I'm saying at worst, it could be just the full prior 6 months to when you file.
Got
Would
it.
be the
The
most
report date.
amount I
Yeah.
think that you could have, right?
Understood,
That would be
yeah.
the maximum.
I wanted to make sure that
Right.
it could predate, the adjustment could predate when the complaint was made.
Got it. So it's made by October.
It's within a year, isn't it? I'm sorry, not within. What did? Blah, blah, blah.
So is the ordinance you can only relieve 6 months, or the ordinance you can report the problem
Well-
and have it repaired within 6 months? And ask for more.
No later than
impact.
6 months after issuance of the first contested utility bill. So, I mean, in theory, the first contested utility bill is May of 2021. And so obviously this is outside of the 6-month period, right? In true to this, right, it says after 6 months of your first contested bill, we can't address that. You can't even appeal it. But all of these months are being contested, so he came in October, and we're saying, well, that 6 months prior would still be a contested bill. That'd be the largest window that we would potentially look at. Am I thinking about that
I
right?
think that's
Okay.
correct. Yeah. So the adjustment period would be May 22 through October 22, and I guess you filed a second appeal as well in January, right? Or is that right?
I think that was just a filed one.
This is the only document we've received, so.
That's
Okay.
it.
Okay.
It may not have been turned in until January, possibly,
Yeah, that was when I came in and met with you, and
but
But the leak should have been resolved as of January.
yes. So it was discovered and resolved within your 6-month window.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But so technically, you can appeal within 6 months, November and December, as part of this, with the statement that the leak was completely fixed as of January. I guess the question is, it's somewhat semantic to say, do we want him to file a new appeal to cover those 2 months? But theoretically, we have an October appeal going back 6 months, and he could technically file another one.
it couldn't be with the same leak, instance, so the same repair couldn't cover
The
both
same-
of them, I
Yeah.
guess.
But he's had 2 repairs.
Okay.
And I think looking at the May, June, and July is probably
Well, from a total
better
consumption.
for him than,
More
Yeah.
relief, for sure.
yeah.
Well, I'm looking if anyone wants to motion for anything, I mean, or if there's more
Can I
questions,
ask
happy.
one more question?
Absolutely.
Just because, I think we're all trying to do the right thing within our boundaries and as much as we
Thank you.
can. The language that you read to me said that the appeal had to be, done within X period of time and it can encompass X period of time. What did the appeal in October ask for? Which period of time did it ask for?
Yeah,
And do we have to, by the bylaws, make a decision based on what the appeal is asking for, or interpreting how we could
Yeah.
answer that appeal within what our scope is?
It was May 21 to October 22.
so the
So-
request was for the full, for a
Right.
period
For
of
18
time
months.
from
18 months.
when this began, but we're saying within the scope of what we can do, let's try to address it.
Right, I just didn't know if we had to ask for a clean appeal. If we
I think we can,
I didn't know if we
yeah, no, that's a
legally-
good point.
If we had to ask for one that
Well, they can ask for whatever they want.
that only covered a
because in theory,
6-month period,
Right.
because
yeah.
I wouldn't want us to be taking actions that were outside of what our bylaws say that we can do. So
Well-
in principle, we may all be agreed
Yeah, no, I don't think
about how to
that,
help as best as we can, but in practice, I didn't know if we need a cleaner written
I don't
record.
think the leak adjustment form needs to conform in a sense. It's what's being asked.
Then that's my
and
question.
no, that's a fair question. I think
Yeah, it often comes in over the scope of what we can do. It's like, here's everything we really hope, and then we say, here's what we actually can
Right.
do, and it might fall within there.
I think that's right.
Perfect, just, yeah.
So I'll move that the adjustment include the months of May, June, and July, in addition to the months that the staff has already approved.
Which is August, September, and October.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Do I need to restate the motion? So the motion we have is for basically a 6-month adjustment, which includes the months of May, June, and July, and August, September, and October
Of
of
20.
2022.
Yeah.
Great.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? Motion passes. So that is what we can offer right now. I mean, that's entirely, but so those adjustments can be made and will be reflected in your bill.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Moving on to regular agenda item number 4 now, which is discussion and possible action to elect a chair of the Utility Commission. Thank you, Ashley.
Just a requirement of our boards and commissions every year at your first meeting. So Jonathan, we're not kicking you out.
Ah,
We're just
Anyone
this
can do it.
goes on for all of our boards and commissions. So
So I'll ask the question, are you willing to serve again?
I'll do whatever I would like. If anyone else is interested, I'm certainly happy, but whatever.
So I would move to elect Jonathan Miller chairman for 2023.
Second?
All in favor? I guess I have to do that for
Yeah.
myself.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right.
I appreciate both your service and your institutional knowledge, as those of us that are newer continue to learn.
And I still lean on Clark and often Chris, who's
Yeah.
here as well. So appreciate it.
And I
Thank
just
you.
met you.
Well, that'll keep it easy.
Yeah.
Moving to the next item on the agenda, which is discussion and possible action regarding language for the cellular service and coverage survey. So this is included in the packet as well. I know there's been some discussion on this. I mean, I think the survey is great. I want to open it up for other commentary on it, certainly, and that can be
I
both.
missed reading that.
That can be both questions on the survey as well as efficacy and necessity and other things around this project. I think we've certainly seen that and even most recently with the storm we had, that the carriers are not as interested in dealing with us as maybe we would like. I think part of this survey was to try to get an understanding for the true impact citywide, and maybe we would learn from it that it's not as impactful as we think, or maybe we'd learn that it's far more impactful than we think, and we would have some data that we could share with carriers to perhaps persuade them. But we may also be setting expectations that we're working on this and trying to get it, and that we'll get something done, even though that may be outside of our own reach. So I'm certainly happy to open this up for discussion.
Okay.
I have a couple.
Please.
I echo some of your thoughts on, how we're setting people's expectations in a multitude of different ways. And that probably comes down to me for question 9 specifically. I think we could possibly answer, we could phrase that a little bit differently.
Yep.
And it could possibly be 2 different questions. That could be, would you wish for the city to pursue improved options? Because that'll tell us whether they actually want us spending any form of resource, including the time of this committee.
Mm-hmm.
And if so, would you support the city investing in possible resources discovered? Because then you'll know, do you want us to even look at it? And if
that's
you do
right.
find
That is the
something-
intent. The intent was to say, hey, it's great that you want us all to work on this, but when it actually comes down for me asking you to pay for it, if you're going to say
Yeah.
no, then we could have stopped at question 1.
Right. And so I think you have to ask both of those questions.
Yeah.
I don't think it is helpful to say, if so, at
Yeah.
what cost,
Yeah.
because I don't think people have
A clue.
Mm-hmm.
a perspective. Your
Yep.
average
That's
person
very-
who is not perhaps sitting on the finance committee or in the city council is not particularly au fait with every line item of our budget in the city. And what things might cost and how much money there may or may not be there. I think that comes to, if there is a proposal,
Yeah.
then one has to understand if we could do it, and if not, how we could do it.
I was thinking if there's a way to ask them, where would you prioritize this, but they may not know what other things. Maybe that would just open it up to
Yeah.
too many, this could be the fifth of 5 things, in which case we kind of know we need to focus on those other 4 first. Thoughts, sir?
Not to convolute things further, but
Oh, I can't wait.
Phil McDuffie, 4711 Timberline. Back to Elizabeth's point, and setting expectations, you know, first off, we don't even know if there's anything we can do. You know, if people identify we have a problem, so I would think something along the phrasing of, if there's a possible solution, you know, as far as setting expectations, because, you know, as you know, we've been looking at this, we've been talking to cellular providers and that type of thing, and so far, with the exception of putting up some enormous tower, you know, within the city boundaries that probably people aren't really going to go for, or at least the immediate neighbors near it probably wouldn't go for it.
It depends where it is.
It depends, but even with that, you know, that, so I would just, something along the phraseology of, if there is a solution, you know, that type of thing, to hopefully get it in the world of, there may be nothing we can do until technology catches up with our problem. So, that's all.
That's a good point.
But I'm very enthusiastic about serving responsibly on this committee to ask people if that's something that they would wish us to spend our time on, and or to ascertain, aside from our previous history and or possible
Yeah.
current assumptions, what that actual answer is.
Right.
I'm hesitant to say, I felt like this was innocent enough in its, hey, we're just trying to gather some information without setting expectations, you know, but we need to start somewhere. So, yes, so I think I would also support maybe rephrasing that question, or replacing it with something that just tries to gauge the support for actual investment of time, resources, and money towards a solution if there is one.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we have to recognize that this issue, like many other issues in our city and the world, is highly charged for a certain subset of people that are very frustrated.
We'll get 10 very, very, you know, strong responses.
Yes, and so, you know, we kind of have to gear our outreach and manage our expectations, assuming that will be the case. And so
Yeah.
nuance of wording is probably important.
Mm-hmm.
So do we want to talk about, I think we kind of did some of these questions offline essentially, right? We did this on a subcommittee, so why don't we just kind of revisit that with some of the wording? And we'll bring it back.
And do you have the ability to run this without too much effort on your part in terms of,
I think so. I think we have, with the electronic options we have, and I think even a postcard might be possibly better received. So maybe we can talk about that next month when we have the language, is how do we think sending this out? And it will go to council for their approval, so if there is any
That's right.
money investment, they can make the call on that. But
okay.
I
for
would
sure,
like to-
electronically shouldn't be too heavy on resources.
I would like to ironically do it via a text survey.
I like it. Call people, be like, you
Yeah.
didn't answer, so we figured you didn't have
Yeah.
problems.
And no response will be considered a no?
Yeah.
You're fine with everything?
Is there anything else we can do now so that next month we're prepared to pass it?
Do you wanna? I can recirculate it to our subcommittee that worked on it last time, and maybe we can refine some language. Or is there
Yeah.
anything else you'd
Well,
like staff to work
I don't think we can
on?
circulate it to the broader group offline, because that'll count as
Mm-mm.
something.
That's
against
fine.
the open
Right.
But if you
meetings
do that, then we're ready to go in
Yeah.
the next
Yeah.
meeting. Okay, good.
Great.
I have a question,
Sure.
and I think I'd like to address it to you because of the comment that you made. You made the comment that there's a very specific group that would have very strong responses to the inquiry. How many people are we talking about? Do we know? I mean, are we talking about there's 20 people or 50 people or 100 people?
you know, I think it's not an insubstantial number, but it is very difficult to pinpoint what number of people that would be, because the maps that are available that say what the coverage is, first of all, don't all match, and second of all, I think there's a lot of wiggle room in them because they come from the providers. And so I think that's the purpose of this survey. It's gonna tell us where we are in reality in some ways versus what the telecoms companies are putting out there.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we believed their maps, we don't have a problem.
Well, I would believe that they probably would like us to believe there's not a problem, even if there was a problem. The other thing I was wondering is that do we have a situation where there are certain carriers that are a bigger problem for our people than other carriers, and that those carriers are in the minority?
I think this survey is trying to slightly, someone might say, I don't have a problem when I have AT&T, I guess we'll try to figure that out. But I feel like it's fairly broad as far as,
Well, I mean, I have T-Mobile, and I've never had a problem with a drop call that I can remember. And
Yeah, but it's-
see a roll on.
I mean, we will find out based on their responses who their cell phone carriers are.
you know,
That's right.
Mhm.
That's the idea. We'll identify.
So,
Yeah.
we'll get some specificity, at least within the universe of those that answer.
which is the intent, yeah. So I don't think, so the action is we'll do some rewording on the subcommittee and then we'll be prepared.
Bring it back.
Procedurally, you know, just because we had a canceled meeting, we've had different things, and I, you know, wanna move along what we can move along. Are we allowed on other boards that I've been on, there's been a working group that has had something smaller and very specific, like this questionnaire, that did it, and it was then, outside, not waiting for the next meeting, it was then emailed for a vote, which means that work could continue on if it was approved and not have to wait a whole nother month to start that process.
Unfortunately, that is not an option with the Open Meetings Act. Every vote must be taken in an open session. There is always opportunity to say, hey, we're going to task this subcommittee, and even allow them to make a recommendation. So if you wanted things to move on more quickly, that would be an option to say we give
That's
you
what
the
I was gonna
authority to.
We could vote today to say, hey, let's just fix this and know that the subcommittee will send this to council.
That's
So-
another option.
Oh,
And we might not have a response by the next meeting, but the update would be the survey was submitted and city council has it on as an agenda item.
Oh,
at some point.
that's pretty easy to do. Then can I make that
Go ahead.
motion? I would like to move that the subcommittee, after revising the language, have the authority to send it to the city council for their review.
That's good.
Second?
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? Motion passes.
Okay.
Perfect. The next item is an update regarding the return to assessing late fees for delinquent utility bills.
Sure. So, want to first off give a huge thanks to Veronica. She's been here for how many months have you been here?
Since
October. And she has already kind of taken a great hold over all of our utility accounts, and she's done a lot of really old collections that really should have been taken care of earlier. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we stopped assessing late fees probably close to March 2020. So we hadn't been charging late fees, and that was causing a lot of laziness, slow paying bills, not paying bills, and it was just a hard time to get in contact with all of those people. Between December of 21, at that time we had $191,000 in the arrears. And in December of 22, after a lot of hard work by Veronica, we were down to 31,000. So huge drop. And I'm sure it's much, much lower now even. This is just kind of the last numbers I had available. So she's made a lot of strides in that. We also have done a lot of noticing. So you've probably noticed in your last few months, you've been getting calendars of utility bill issuance dates, due dates, cutoff dates. We've made some updates to the ordinances as they apply to start when late fees are assessed, when we cut off for non-payment, and I think those have been very successful. We're down to just a few accounts that are still in some form of delinquency, and those are going to be, if we can't get a hold of them, we have a, account closeout process, and so it's been very successful. People are getting back on board, and I think it's going well. So I didn't know if y'all had heard any of that in the community or noticed a lot of the notices that went out. We think it was very successul. We haven't had too many angry people in here yelling at us yet.
So I was getting delinquent notice myself because we went out of town several times in the last year, and the hold mail system lost my bill twice or 3 times anyway. So I don't know, but now it's great. You have a email paperless billings, which is going to solve that problem.
Yes, and the ACH billing is 100% back on track, and
Yeah.
we were very understanding because we knew a lot of that was on our end the first time around about a year ago, and so those issues have been corrected, and Veronica's just really great at dealing with those accounts, and I think we're on the right path now.
Good.
So,
I have a question.
sure.
The first question is, how long are we trying to give our customers to pay the bill from the time they receive it? Because the mail service, I don't know about the rest of you, but we have tremendous problems with our credit card bills and other bills where we get them and we got 2 days to pay the bill, that type of thing.
Sure.
So we've been trying to electronically pay those so we get there in time. We put it in the mail, they'll never get it.
Right. So we actually have been a lot more successful too at getting the bills out the first week of the month, and so that was always our goal. I think was to get them out by the 8th or 9th of the month. We're trending much closer, much earlier now. We've gotten a lot more people on e-billing options and things like that, so that expedites the billing process. And so I would say comfortably, probably by the 5th of most months, the bill is out the door. It's due on the 23rd, unless that falls on a weekend, and then I think we give a 3-day grace period before late fees are assessed, and then from that point a late notice is generated, and then we give another 3 or 4 days before cutoffs. And so
I'm sorry, I didn't. The 5th is when you mail them out at the latest,
at the latest, generally the first
Okay.
week of the month, it's done.
and so they have the 5th to the 23rd
Yes.
to make the payment.
With some leeway, but that's the official due date, and we don't assess penalties till 3 business days later. So we try to give some wiggle room, and if, of course, the first few times around, we're gonna have some people who get caught in it, and we have other options. We have online a portal where you can go see your bill the second it's generated. We have notifications you can set up for that. We have e-bills, so we're trying to let people know about all the options we have, and the more people that take advantage, the faster the billing process goes. We're up to, we have 140 people on e-bills, so of the 640 that we do a month, stuffing 140 less bills helps a lot as well. So it's coming along quicker.
What's the average bill? I mean, I just, when I heard $7,000 a while ago, I thought, oh my God.
Oh gosh, I don't know. What do you think the average bill is?
It all depends on the household. There's some that, $70, $90, but then we have 400, 500, 600, 800, 1,000. So it depends on the household.
It's probably bimodal.
It's
We
easy to
probably
know,
have a
yes.
pretty high amount in a certain category and then another in another group, probably. So
Okay, thanks.
we can get that data if you're interested in it. We just
No,
don't
that's
have
all right. I want a general idea of what's going on.
it. Sure.
For the few accounts that are going delinquent, like what is the account closure process? Like to what degree are we actually contacting them?
So generally, when those kind of things happen, we have, I think, 2 right now that are commercial accounts that we just don't have good contacts for, and they're under construction or something, and nothing has happened. One, I believe, is a residential, and a lot of times they're just really old information on the account. So home phone numbers that have been disconnected, email addresses that aren't on the bills, and so we reach out as many times as we can. We did a courtesy cutoff we call it courtesy cutoff. It sounded very nice. At the beginning of January, mid-January, where anyone who was in that boat, after a lot of notice, stickers on doors, door hangers for a solid week, we did a very heavy round of noticing. They got a courtesy cutoff, so we didn't charge them any cutoff fees, just to kind of get their attention and let them know, hey, we're here and we need your contact info because we don't have it. And so that was successful. I think we still have 3 that no one has reached out, and our water's off and meters are locked. And so in that case, we would close out the account. That way we could use the deposit towards any outstanding balance, and then if there's a final bill, we would issue it. And so if the person wants water service, or say it's transferred hands and we didn't know about it, they would have to come in and open
That
service.
sounds great. That's very thorough.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also eventually goes to collection as well.
Right. Yes. Yeah, we generally don't collect on any, current residents, but if someone leaves and leaves a balance, we have a collections firm that takes care of those. And
Did I understand the curiosity that there are some that are builder properties that you don't have a good contact for? Do they not have to give us a contract when they require permitting and different things?
they do. I think it's more like a vacant home. Like maybe it's going to be at some point. So we have one that's that way, and then a couple that are commercial that no progress has been made on the construction side. It's not uncommon to not be able to reach out to people who are on the original building application, because sometimes those were submitted a long time ago. Contractors change, we're not aware of it, and so not uncommon. But like I said, I think we only have 3 accounts out of all 600 that we haven't heard back, and we'll hear from them as soon as they need water, which will be sometime soon probably. So
I bet there's a contact number or contact name on it, too.
probably we've gone through
Somebody
those
owns it.
resources.
And those go to collections as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to find them.
Right.
Great.
Yeah, that's
Done?
the update.
Perfect.
Great.
Unless anyone has anything else to add?
I just had
Yeah.
just out of curiosity, do you have any idea how many homes in Rollingwood lost power last week?
Austin Energy was reporting a lot more than we were seeing on the ground. I know.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, for those of
One
us.
place they had it on Al Marion on there,
Yes.
and it said it was 71 customers, but
And
Yeah.
it was
it wasn't.
those of us at home who were monitoring were like, everyone get out there and see, and people weren't reporting that. We had a few that were, I think certain voltage lines had dropped, and so furnaces weren't working and the bigger
Right.
appliances, but they could get some stuff to work. So I think at this point they're still showing a few outages on our outage map. Those aren't confirmed on our end, and so I think probably a lot of the tree trimming that Austin Energy was in here doing in the last couple months saved a few of our lines. I know we did, unfortunately, our pavilion does not have power right now. We lost the power line to the pavilion, but that's the extent of the damage here, so
Yeah.
I think we made it out okay.
But as somebody who fought with Austin Energy for 2 years and AT&T along the whole of Anolfo Alonzo Way, it was very helpful to partner with y'all here as well, and very helpful in that battle to engage the name of the Utilities Commission so that we could tag on to other work that they had planned and expand it, because they had no plans to come into that area for another 2 years.
Right.
And I think that tree trimming really saved us.
Yeah,
I think so too.
thanks.
It did. And also, I just imagine some of the areas that, like, their lights and their microwave, I've discovered some houses have 2 different feeds as far as electricity, which I wasn't aware of prior to this last go round. And so I imagine with all of Austin being, there are some people that still have absolutely no energy. Like
Yeah.
that is going to be a lower priority. So those households
Right.
that aren't right now getting heat, however, they do have light. Some of their appliances work and some of their appliances don't work. They may be probably waiting a bit, but it's not a lot of households. I'm only aware of one little area in the city that was occurring on.
Yeah,
So,
as of right now, the outage map shows nothing within the
Right.
borders of Rollingwood. There's some things in Westlake and the Austin perimeter, but
and much in the same way as our cellular services.
yeah,
group.
sure. That's very,
Right.
very
Yeah.
possible.
It's great.
Possible.
So yeah, Phil, the houses have 2 120 lines coming in, and that's how you get 240 to run your oven and your dryers and
I was
Stuff like that.
understanding just because I was trimming people's trees that they have one line that's 120 and then they've got another that's higher voltage and they basically have 2 different voltages or something. I don't know. But yeah,
It might
It,
feel
it's sort of like, yeah, it's sort of like that.
How much do you
Okay.
charge, how much do you charge for tree trimming?
I'm doing it gratis, so if you want me to, I have chainsaw will travel. Just let me know.
Well, he's working for the city right now. He's just doing the park first, and then we can lend him out. But I'm just kidding.
No, I've just been going around as I see things, I just offer. So if you need me to, seriously, I'll come by.
I wanna say one thing, I got involved with an individual in my pickup truck today, and it took 5 pickup trucks stacked way high to get all the trees off my lot.
Wow.
And if everybody, or if that's a similar sample for everybody else, we got a tremendous amount of dumpsters and trash pickup and everything that we're gonna have to do. And I don't know if we've really assessed the cost of what all that's gonna be, but I think it's gonna be pretty high.
Well, right now, I mean, we're off base, but what I've heard is, we're managing that in that the people that are hiring crews, those crews aren't supposed to be able to use our dumpsters, stuff like that. Part of what you're paying them for is to haul it off completely. So that hopefully will keep the cost to the city down a bit, but.
And Waste Connections, to our vendor that does our garbage and recycling collection, when these kind of events happen, they're amazing. They show up with dumpsters and usually go above and beyond what our contract says. And so I know they're having some issues right now because their normal trucks would maybe take care of a couple streets before they fill up with the amount of rush there is. And so they're renting larger trucks. They're bringing in people from other cities. And so we're hopefully getting close to on the list, but until then we have Public Works in the area chipping. You'll probably see them around taking care of everything they can, but it's gonna be we're all gonna chip away at it until we get it
Did the
taken
notice
care of.
finally go out of the dumpsters being available to residents?
It hasn't, and that was a little bit by design because we're using that to dump the chips right now, and so it's absolutely there. I will say it here, everyone listening, but until we get those dumped out a couple more times, it's still.
Well, I made
It's just
5 trips and I didn't see anybody else using the dumpsters, that's why I wondered.
Well, aside from that intentional omission, I just, which is, for a good reason, I just wanted to thank y'all because I think the city of Rolling Wood's communication was significantly better than our neighbors, a few streets that way. And I truly appreciated that very much. And sometimes, well, not sometimes, I think it's also a benefit, even if you don't know an answer, to communicate. We hear you, we're on this, we're working on this, please know that we are, and we will tell you, rather than waiting just until you know something and going radio
Right.
silence.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, judicious and consistent and proactive communication as a resident was very appreciated.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Well, on that, thank you. We will adjourn.
I
Thank
like
you.
it. Thanks, y'all.